everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and I'm so excited to introduce my guest, Izabela Hamilton. Welcome to the show, Izabela. I'm so thrilled that you're on the show with me today. How are you?
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here. This is such a pleasure and an honor to have you invite me on your show. I'm excited.
Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to come on and share with us so much of your knowledge and your story, your journey. I cannot wait to have the listeners hear about your story. It's amazing. And thank you. So let's jump right in and tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be where you are now and the company that you launched, which is Rank Bell.
Oh goodness. As you're asking, I'm like, how far should I go back? But I guess I won't go too far, but just so your listeners understand, because I'm sure they're going to pick up on the accent. I'm from Romania. I came to US when I was 20 years old. Don't ask me how long ago that was. But I was pretty young, and I just had this fire inside of me. And I really wanted to do something with my life in a place that allowed me more than what my country did. So by doing that, I just started, trying to find ways to come to US. And then eventually I got into a nanny program. Maybe a lot of your listeners are familiar with the au pair program. And that was, my way of escaping Romania in a way. And I made it over here, and I had a series of different jobs and different skills that I collected over the years, which essentially moved me to where I am right now and have been for the past 9 years, which is Rank Bell. And Rank Bell is a market research and brand alignment agency, and we help Amazon sellers and brands on other platforms, but a lot of people know Rank Bell primarily that helps Amazon sellers.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that brief description of your journey here to where you are today. And something that I wanted to talk to you about in relation to building that business as a woman, as an entrepreneur, businesswoman, there have been, I'm sure, some challenges and some setbacks. How would you say you've handled that? Like, how have you overcome some of those things that do come up for women as they're building business?
That's a really great question. And, I ponder upon this question a lot, obviously being a leader like in my industry, and I get this question a lot, and I try to give the best answer. And there's not really one particular answer or one particular skill that I can say. I think it's a compilation of everything so far. But, a lot of the challenges that women have to go through, also men have to go through as well. But I feel like for women, they're a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more showcased because we do have other responsibilities that you know of as well, Desiree, having children and having relationships outside just work. And it's usually men are just focused on business, right? And then, here we are, women trying to come into an industry and hopefully dominate that industry, one of my favorite words. And then you have all these other responsibilities that you as a mom, you have to be there and you want to be there, right? So you're right, there are a lot more challenges than, let's say, a man starting a business. And, I guess the way I overcome these challenges is to remind myself that at the end of the day, what is it? Why am I doing this for? And if you were to pull back the curtains on all of us, really entrepreneurs, is at the core of what we're trying to achieve is peace, mental peace, heart peace. You want to make sure that you have obviously the essentials, food on the table, and then, you go up the pyramid. But, if you really consider what we're doing it for, then you can relax a little bit. Because what happens is, I know with entrepreneur minds, we want to take everything. We want to grow. And then, your kids are like, mom, play with me. And then you're like, I'm busy. But then what are we doing this for? So, I know this is kind of a very broad answer to your question, but we do what we can.
Yeah. And you really did bring up a good point, is that what are we doing this for? That's the heart of it, is why? What is the reason why we're doing it? And we need to remember to focus on that. We're doing it for our kids as much as our own success, right? We want to show our kids what's possible. We want to help our family, financially, or for whatever reason, we choose to get into launching a business. But I think especially it's true that you want your kids to see what's possible.
I love that. Absolutely. And you want your kids to be better than you were. And that's what we strive for. And I think that's something every single human has in common that has kids. We want our kids to live better. We want our kids to have more than what we did. I mean, when I grew up, I didn't really have much. So of course now I'm like, I just want to give my kid everything. But then, you have to have a balance. Like when is there too much of that too? And honestly, I don't know. Hopefully I'm not messing up my kid, but you know what I mean?
Yes. And that's a concern, I think, that is worldwide for moms is, am I doing this right? Is my kid going to be okay? And, we just have to have faith and trust that we're doing the best that we can with, what we've got. And, we love our kids, and that's, they're going to be fine, right? We just have to remind ourselves they're going to be fine and pray that that's true. But, we talked a little bit earlier about mindset. And I think that this is something that really is a spinoff of what we're talking about, is the mindset that we have, that we carry through in our daily activities. So tell me about that. Why is that important?
Oh my God. I mean, you're like touching my favorite spots, because mindset is something that I think took me from where I was to where I'm at right now. And again, mindset, it's so broad, and it's like, where do you start and where do you end? But I think what I can say on this is, making sure that you literally regulate and you check on the things that you think are so important, because what you think becomes what you speak, and what you speak becomes reality. And there's a lot of famous writers that, wrote about this, but I think the best I can sum it up is, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And, for somebody that's listening to this, I really want them to take this sentence and really let it sink in, because that says a lot about what we think. So, if I say every day, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't start my business, I can't, I'm not a good mom, I'm not this, what you're doing is you're literally hypnotizing yourself into believing certain beliefs. So what happens is, when you have that belief as really your religion at this point, and your cult, and something that you tell yourself, then also the reality around you starts manifesting into exactly that, right? So if you start driving your car and you say everybody on the road is blah blah blah, then that person, you will end up meeting all those people who are going to confirm your reality. So if we're really thinking deep on that, then there's a moment where you can switch. You're like, wait a minute, if this is something that I can control, if I'm actually doing this myself, then can I create something else? So when I started realizing this quite young, but obviously not as complex as I do now. But I think for my young brain at that time, it was enough to give me like that confidence and inspiration, right? So like when I was in Romania, every day I would go to sleep and I would say, God, please, 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 I want to go to America. I'm never going to ask you for anything else. I just want to go to America. All I knew was like to pray from church or whatever I learned, that's one way to do it. But said, God, let me go to America. And then, when it happened, I was like, wait a minute. Is this, did I do this, or how did this happen, right? So it was that little tiny switch of like, oh, maybe I created this. But then, of course, your mind comes in, you're like, nah. But then as I started doing this, I would wish for something. I make it sound like magic, but I would wish for something. And then, when it did come true, I had that moment of like, oh, am I doing it? So I think that's how my mindset started, forming around this idea that I have to tell myself that I'm good enough. Because it doesn't matter if you hear from your friends or parents or whoever you hear from, if you truly are not at peace with yourself, you're not going to believe it. And even when you tell yourself you're not going to believe it for a very long time, and even when you start believing it, you're still going to have doubts. So mindset, it's your muscle. It's like, when you go to the gym, you can't just go to the gym for 6 months and you got your abs and then think forever they stay there. No, as soon as you fall off, they fall off. So mindset.
That's a fantastic point that you just made. It is like a muscle. That repeating of those positive things that you're saying to yourself, it is like an affirmation, right? You're affirming what you want to see. And anytime that you continue to repeat something, you're affirming that you want to see that thing. And if it's negative, that's what you're going to see. And so you've got to keep working, like you said, on building that muscle so that you're repeating those positive things that you want to see reflected in your life. And that's absolutely right on. Love that. So let's talk a little bit also about confidence and, how that plays into it as well. And the confidence can also be built from that mindset, right?
Absolutely. And again, once you start learning about how to control your own mind and control your reality, then you will have this part of confidence that comes in because you realize that it's really only you, right? And I know it sounds almost egotistical to speak that way, but if you think about it, you're born alone, you're going to die alone. Of course, there's a lot of relationships that come in your life, your kids, your spouse, your friends, your community, and so forth and so forth, but really it's just you. So if it's just you, then it doesn't really matter how others see you, because first of all, I'll make a little parenthesis here, the brain tricks us, right? The brain tricks us into thinking certain things, right? But also those things are reflected from within yourself. So I'll give an example. If I think, oh my God, I'm about to speak on stage and everybody's going to think I'm so fat. I don't know, just making that up, right? Oh my God, everybody's going to think I'm so fat. And then I create this like almost stress in my head that's going to give off this energy of like non-confidence, right? And then what happens is everybody else in the audience is picking that up as well. They don't necessarily think, oh, she's thinking she's fat, because I'm making that up myself, right? But they see that there's something wrong with it. So then it bounces back again to you. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm thinking this. They're showing me that they're thinking this. And then you get into this spin into your head that is not even true. So the brain is tricking us that there's other people who are thinking I'm also fat. But really, we only care about ourselves, like really deeply. I don't think, you can think yourself too, but like, I don't think I've ever been to a place where somebody spoke on stage and, I was like, oh my God, this person is this. You don't. I'm thinking, oh my God, like, what am I going to feed my kid for dinner? Or, oh my God, that meeting that I have afterwards. This is what I mean. People think of themselves. Like very little attention do they pay to you, really. So everything that we have in our head is made up from ourselves. So now, again, that you know that this is true, because it's impossible that you know what everybody else thinks around you, right? Again, it's our mind making that. So if you know that that's true, then you can almost give yourself first that knowledge of like, you know what? Actually, nobody is thinking of me. And then you can go deeper, of course, if you want to work on yourself and be like, where is this even coming from? Like, where in my life did this happen to give me this thought? Or again, there's so much work around this, but that confidence comes from saying, you know what, I'm actually pretty smart. Or you know what, like, good job. Like, you did that chore that you were going to do today. You may not have finished your whole 10 items on your to-do list, but even that one, because that's another thing that we do, Desiree, is like, we want to achieve the world. We want to accomplish everything. And especially moms, oh my God, not only we take care of the kids in the house and this, and we also want to start a business, and we also want to do this. And then if we don't do that fully, then we beat ourselves up. Like we're some kind of super gods with superpowers that we could accomplish all of it. So in that, when you put all of this stress on yourself and you don't reach it, then again, your brain is like, see, you didn't do it. See, you're terrible. See, you didn't work out. See, you didn't do this. And then it starts again, this stress and this just like, that's how we get sick. So with confidence, it's again a muscle, just like with mindset. Just give yourself some grace and give yourself some love and say, you know what? I am doing the best I can. And I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. And first time you do this exercise is going to be weird because you probably never told yourself this. I love myself. You know, we tell it to our kids, we tell it to our friends, to our spouse, to our family. But when do we say it to ourselves? Like, I love myself. Like, let me give myself a hug. And once you do that, then you start building up that confidence. You're not going to just by watching this tomorrow, you're not going to be like, Superwoman, I hope you do. Or a little bit, and a little bit. And that's what it takes.
That's right. That little bit better every day. Start with where you are right now, build on that. And I don't know really how many people are out there that would say, I tell myself, I love myself all the time. I think it's very few people who do that. And I think more people should. You're absolutely right. We are with us all the time. We, as you said, we are born alone. We will die alone. Yes, we have relationships in our life and over the lifetime that we have here, but we are always with ourselves.
We have to fill our own cup. And I'm sure you've heard of this saying, is like, how are you going to pour from an empty cup? And because a lot of people say, you know, my kids come first and this comes first. And I battle with that too all the time, because it's like, how can you say that when you're supposed to have your kids first, you know, and this first? But then really think about it. If I love myself first, then wouldn't I be able to love my kid even more? Because if I'm depressed and I'm sad all the time and I think this and I'm beating myself up, and then there's a little love left that of course you give to your kids, all of it, take it, and then you're empty. You have nothing for yourself. But if you start training yourself, you know, it doesn't matter what you look like, and it doesn't matter where you're from, and it doesn't matter how young, how old, how fat, how skinny, how whatever you are so blessed and so lucky to have a human body. Don't even let me go down that rabbit hole, Desiree, because I can talk about that all day. But I'll just say this, by the simple, pure fact that we actually have a physical body, that you can look at your hand and you have a machine. Literally, this body is the smartest machine ever on earth. It's so smart that even now, after all these thousands of years or millions of years on earth, we still don't know how the brain works. We still don't know what makes everything work. So if we're entrusted with such a special machine, would you now want to say, I love myself? Because we're only here literally for 100 years, hopefully for more if technology keeps, you know, helping us out. But don't you not take a minute and be like, oh my God, I could have been like, you know, whatever you believe in, a spirit flying in the cosmos, in the space. And it's great. I'm sure it's great. But isn't it great to be able to like hug your kids and, I don't know, like kiss somebody on the lips? You know what I mean? Or like listen to this amazing song when you're driving with your top down on a summer night, you know, by the beach. Like, these are things we're not going to experience when we're dead, because you require a human body for that. So I love myself. I don't know how we got here, because I always just kind of like channel whatever comes to me. But no, I just feel like it had to be said.
No, I love it. I think you're absolutely right. We are souls on a human experience, and that is absolutely right. We wouldn't be able to experience any of the things that you described if we didn't have a human body. And so we do need to recognize that we are special. It is amazing that it works flawlessly most of the time without us even having to think about it is a miracle. Is absolutely a miracle. So thank you for sharing that, because that is special.
When you start doing this, that's when your confidence comes up. See how it's all related and it's all connected.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's switch gears just a little and talk about the success that you've had in your business. And would you say, like, what has been the thing that you've been most proud of what you've done so far?
Not giving up. You know, not really not giving up, because any type of work that you do, any type of work. And as I said, I've done a string of odd jobs. I mean, I came in as an au pair. I mean, I was making $140 a week, right? Then I moved on to being a nanny. That was like, oh, I was so cool then because I got to make an actual actual money. Like, maybe instead of 140 a week, I was making maybe 250 or, and then I got up to like 500 a week. So it was like more real. But then, and then another job and then another job. But every single thing you do, it has certain challenges as certain things. So what happens as there is with a lot of people, they encounter a challenge, whatever that is, and then they'll tell themselves, "Oh, I can't do it," or "I'm not gonna." Again, all this self-talk that we have, or maybe they're an actual physical thing where they actually cannot perform certain things, right? And then they give up. So what happens is when you give up, there's nothing more that comes after that. So I am so grateful that I think because I was born like in such a poor country and we were so broke, like I've seen it all. And I knew the worst that can happen was, I don't know, maybe move in with some family member, right? So if you are really to dissect your issues and your challenges, and instead of trying to put them away, like, oh, you know what, I don't want to think about it, I'm just going to turn on Netflix, or I'm going to, get drunk with my friends, or I'm going to whatever, fill in the blanks. So a lot of people kind of run away from those challenges. And I understand why. And you know how I understand, because I've done it a million times. Okay. So I understand what that's like, wanting to not think about it. But if we take that huge problem that we think we have and we're like, you know what, let's sit with it. Let's have a chat. Okay, your business is going down. You're completely broke. All right, that's done. What's the worst that can happen? Well, I'm going to lose my mortgage. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose my wife. I'm going to lose my kids. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then what's even worse than that? Because we all have different essentials that we need, right? Boom, boom, boom. But then you realize that all of it again is just made up by your brain, literally. Because if you're, let's say, 50 years old and you knew your whole life you were able to make money one way or another, right? You had this job or you had this, you know that there's not going to be a point where you're just not going to make money. But you see how the brain is like, it's keeping us like, oh yeah, you're going down, son. You're going down. There's nothing out there for you. And you actually believe it. But when you're like, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I can move in with my friend or my neighbor or my, whatever for 6 months until I find another job. And then you have this ease, like, okay, it's not that bad. So with that being said, every single job that I had, every challenge that I had, I was able to move past it. And then what happened? You get this confidence boost, like, oh, I did it. I did it. I did it. And then you start seeing challenges as opportunities to grow. So I developed the system for myself where I'm like, I either win or I learn. So there's not any losing in my mindset. And again, I know I sound like a robot, like, oh my gosh, she's so enlightened, she's so this. No, I'm still human. I still go through this all the time, which is why I'm able to speak about it. But I'm able to course correct pretty quickly now, again, because of the experience. So like if I have, a business situation where I'm like, oh my God, the world is ending. And you know what? I'll give myself grace. Okay, go cry, Izabela. And I'll be crying in the bathroom. Oh my God, my life is the worst. Like this is the worst thing that could ever happen. I give myself grace. Okay, go cry. Go cry. And then the next morning I'm like, okay, we're good now. We're good. But I never give up. I'm never just like, you know what? That's it. Let's close shop. Let's put the lock. No, there's always something. And then you start it's almost like a pleasure because you're like, ooh, okay, now I see that I can do this and then I can do this and what else? Because all of these really are opportunities for us to grow. If everything in your life went smoothly and, every deal you made was boom, one after another, you would be bored out of your freaking brain, okay? Let's put it this way. Of course, we're like, oh no, it would be so perfect. No. Why do you think a lot of people die when they retire? Because they're bored in their minds. Again, is that mindset shift like, you know what? This is not a problem. This is actually an opportunity for me to grow. And then you say, thank you, God, or thank you, universe, or whatever you want to say, or thank yourself. Like, you know what? That's how you do it. You just keep moving forward, and there's no limit to what you can achieve. No limit. If I came here with $100 in my pocket and no English, anybody can do it. Honestly, anybody can do it.
Yeah, I think that you made such a great point in that learning that these things that we see as the end of the world, when we really break it down, it's not the end of the world. And there's some way we can overcome it or get around it or break it down until it's a manageable size and we can do something with that, you know, in a concrete manner, and we can solve that problem, right? And I think that's fantastic, because those small wins, you know, lead to bigger wins, and you're right. We would be bored to tears if everything was perfect all the time. I know we like to tell ourselves, no, I want it to be perfect. I want everything to be happy all the time. How would you know that it's happy without having those sad times, right? How would you know it's perfect without having times that weren't perfect? You wouldn't. So you've got to have that balance, right? That life is a balance. It's ups, it's downs. Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how do you stay focused on achieving those goals that you set for yourself? You know, what kind of tricks do you use, or tips can you share that help you achieve the things you want to achieve? And then there's something I want to talk about, as you mentioned, kind of an audacious goal that you have for yourself. And so I want to hear about that. But let's start with, like, what are you doing? How do you achieve these goals that you set for yourself?
That's a great question, because you don't always get everything. I want to say I get everything I want, but sometimes we have to remember that certain things in life maybe are not supposed to come our way. Maybe something else that's better. At least that's what I tell myself. Because you see, again, we all create our own system. So when things don't go my way, I'm like, oh, it's perfect, because it wasn't meant to be. Of course, it hurts me. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I didn't get that deal. But then I'm like, okay, then something better is coming. And it usually does. But, how do I stay focused on my goals? So this is something that I've been studying a lot lately, because a lot of, intellectual people that I follow and the books that I read, they all have one thing in common, Desiree, and they all said you have to be clear on your goals. You have to be so focused on what you want that nothing stands in your way. And when I thought about that, I realized that I didn't really have like a clear goal. That question is almost scary. And I'll just speak from my experience. When I was asked, like, what do you want? I had such a hard time defining what that is, because it feels so permanent. It feels like, oh, if I want this, then that's all I'm going to get and nothing else. So for the longest time, I was afraid to set a goal. And what we do, then we just don't make any goals. And then we wake up and then we go through the same things every single day. And then a month goes by, and then 6 months, and then it's another year. And then you make your New Year resolutions where they don't really happen. But we don't really have like what drives us. And again, I didn't do it because I didn't want to be stuck on that one thing. But then I heard something recently that completely changed my mindset around that. And it was like, you know what? Your purpose is exactly what you want to do right now. And then I'm like, oh my God, wait a minute. So that means I can have a purpose just for right now. So let's say my purpose is to, and excuse me, I usually use very big numbers because that's how my brain works. But let's say if my purpose right now is to get to $1 million a month, like legit, like I want to make $1 million in profit a month. And it's crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but now I'm like, okay, well, if that's the goal right now, then at least it's something right now, right? But maybe my purpose next year is going to be building schools in Africa. I have no idea. But do you see how now that I know this, that my purpose doesn't have to extend for like centuries ahead of me? I can make them smaller. Not that, having a million is small, but it can be anything. It can be like, you know what, I want to get my kid in this college, and that's my purpose right now. And that's my goal. So this is how you keep clear on that goal. And you know what? You can again allow yourself to not have it anymore if you don't want it anymore. Like tomorrow, because again, we're such perfectionists as humans. It's like I love humans. Like we're so amazing, but we're so like OCD in the worst way sometimes. Like, oh my God, if I said this, then I have to do this. And if I put this as my purpose, then I cannot have other purposes. But like breathe and release and let go and be like, what do I want right now? I want to get to 1 million a month. Okay, what does it take to get there? Oh, well, you got to do this and you got to be, and that's things that come from that purpose, then you can actually write them down. But if you just say, I just want to have money, okay, I'll give you $2. Like the universe will give you $2, and you'll be like, oh my God, I only got $2. Well, you didn't specify, you were not clear on your goals. So, again, I'm just learning as well. And I'm just learning now that you can have a purpose and then change it later if you want. So, and my audacious goal is to have the ability to become a billionaire in this lifetime, because it's a game. I think money is energy. And if I may speak on this for a second, and because I was talking to my sister yesterday, and she's awesome, my sister, I love her so much, and she's a very successful realtor here in San Diego. And it's been maybe like 2 weeks, and she's like, oh my God, I don't have any more sales. And I'm like, dude, did you even look at your bank account? Like, but you see how we start freaking out. And I said to her, think of it this way: money is really energy. It's just something made up again, because okay, you can take money out of the bank and you'll have the cash in hand, but you cannot take necessarily $1 million out of your account and have it cash, right? So if it's just energy and if it's just numbers, and you go to the store and you swipe a credit card, again, it's like a plastic thing that we give it a value. So if I can have $100 on this website that's a bank, right? Really, then why can I not have $1 billion? So that's what I'm playing with right now, like with literally this. And I really hope I'm gonna get to $1 billion just so I can be like, you know what, this is possible, because this is what it is. It's just a website that has some numbers there that, because really, like, what makes me more successful than somebody else? Nothing really. I don't, like, I'm trying, I know we went very philosophical, and stop me if I go too hard, but really, if you think about it, like, if somebody that's making, 5,000 a month and I'm making $1 million a month, and I know I'm not more special than they are. I mean, maybe I'm blonde, or maybe they're brunette or whatever, but if you think about it, I'm not like Einstein or anything. I mean, sometimes I like to think I'm like some genius, again, in my own bubble, but really, how am I any different? So if there's no difference, why do I have more? You know what I mean? And if I have more, then why can I not have that? You see what I mean? So it's almost like a existential question that I ask myself. So why can I have $1 million but not $1 billion? So I want $1 billion.
That's awesome. And the way that you just described money is 100% accurate. It is this thing that we've made up, and we've given it a value, and that it is energy, and where it's a transfer of energy, right? It's something for something, but it is all made up. We've totally given it its value. We have given it its value. And so you're right. Why not? Why not say, this is what my goal is, and go for that? And I love it. That's fantastic.
I want your listeners to, if they truly hear my words, to question this themselves, because that's a start. It really, that's all it takes. And this is like one of my passions and my purposes in life, is to really try to awaken this little spark in people. This like, oh, what if she's right? Or maybe what if there's something in what she said that's like change something, because again, we all have habits, and you can't necessarily like switch to becoming this new person, but if we're able to like open the door just enough to be like, oh, maybe there's a possibility for me. Because that's right. Like I didn't have any money. Like, why am I more special than anyone? And again, I am not. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. Like, I am not more special than you. You're just as special and maybe even smarter than me, like even more intelligent. And there's so many more things that you can do that you give yourself credit for.
That's absolutely right on. That is right on. We all have our gifts, and do you choose to use them or not? I know sometimes fear plays a big part in it, but again, it's kind of a mind game, right? It's, what am I telling myself that's stopping me from doing this thing, this gift that I have that I should be sharing or giving or whatever? You know, I think that's great. I think you made such a great point. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you for going with this. I know it's a lot.
Know.
I haven't done such an interview, but I love what you're doing, Desiree. I love that you really want to help women out there, and you really want to spread this message, and you're doing this because you love people. I'm doing this because I love people. Like, we're not gaining anything else but this. So thank you for allowing me to speak what's on my mind, because I do tend to have a little bit of unique perspective. So thank you for honoring that and for giving me the space.
Absolutely. And I think that, like you said, I'm just sort of channeling this. And I think that happens if we allow ourselves. The thing that needs to be said comes up when it needs to be said. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for being on the show. And we're not done yet, but I want to just say that it's been such an honor to have you on to talk about this, and to say thank you to me for doing what I'm doing. And really, it's such a pleasure for me to be able to bring guests like you on to talk about things that, you know, it could be that spark of inspiration for somebody else, or some kernel of knowledge that starts them on a path of learning. That is really why I'm doing this. I just want women, anybody who's listening, to get something that just creates that spark, or gives them something that empowers them to step forward and do something that they never thought possible. And I love it. So thank you again, Izabela. I appreciate it.
Thank you. But really, when you email me, immediately I responded, because I was like, oh my God, this is so brilliant. Like, what you do, like, I could never say no. Like, you're doing something so amazing. The more we can help, the better. So thank you.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're doing a lot of reading and studying and working on yourself. And so, to speak to that, is there any kind of books or podcasts or things that you're reading that you think would be beneficial for the listeners to take a look at?
Oh my goodness, so many. And that's, I don't want to give too big of a list. I mean, I love learning. Like, I think when I was younger, I hated school. I mean, Romanian schools are just so different. And, and now I'm like obsessed with knowledge. And I really wish they would have integrated that into us when we were younger in Romanian schools. But they didn't. And sometimes I'm like, my parents would be so proud to know how much I study now. But I'm surrounded by books everywhere, and maybe too many. Like, by my bedside, I have like 4 that I'm reading on. And it's kind of weird, because I know some people say just read one book at a time. Some people say read whatever you want, but I read the topics that I'm interested on at the moment. So like this very moment, I'm actually rereading Expert Secrets. I don't know if you've ever seen this book. Russell Brunson, and he is the creator of ClickFunnels. And this is actually such a good book, talking about like, extracting really your offer and what you are selling, and making it your niche in a way. So for anybody that's just like starting a business or is thinking about starting something, this is an excellent book. Again, I'm rereading it now the second time, and I read it like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And when you read and you reread it, you're like, oh my God, totally forgot about this. So this specific moment, I'm reading this because like I'm recreating some of the offers that I have in my business. But on the spiritual side, I'm reading this phenomenal book, and I came across it a few years ago. It's a Russian author, Vadim something, I don't know. But the book is called Transurfing Reality. And I gotta warn you, it's like this big. It's like 900 pages, and it's, I don't know if I would recommend it necessarily for somebody that's never, read anything into spirituality, because you're gonna be like, okay, this person is crazy, and that person who recommended is crazy. But that's what I'm currently reading. And as far as podcasts, I listen to this guy. His name is Brian Scott, and he does like a lot of meditations, and it's just so wonderful. But I do love, Tom Bilyeu for business. He was the creator of Quest Bar, and his wife Lisa. They're phenomenal. Ed Milet, Brad Lee. I can geek down on a lot of YouTube channels, and actually, I just recently I removed all my social media, and I created Instagram, I think 2012 or something. I don't know, because it showed me right before I deactivated it, and I'm like, holy moly, I have been on this stupid app every single day for years. Like, what? Like, so I just like a cold turkey. That's the rate. I was like, and I have like over 50,000 followers, and I'm like, that's it. So I deactivated it. I removed every single app that was a distraction, because what happens is, I would go to it. Let's say I would have a hard day at work, right? And you're like, oh my God, I just want to relax. So you go on Instagram, and it's like, and then 3 hours later, you're like, oh my God, not only you just wasted 3 hours, but you also feel like crap about yourself. Like, I'm not skinny enough. I'm not smart enough. Oh my God, this person started their 7th business. Oh my God, that person got married, and oh my God, and oh, look at that mom. That mom is so good. She takes her kids every day to SeaWorld and bakes cakes and does this, and I'm the worst mom on the planet Earth. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, no more. So I deleted them all. And, I actually thought I was going to like suffer, like withdrawals from, but I'm fine, honestly. Like, thank God I'm fine. But with that being said, it gives me time to do all these things that I've always wanted to do, like pick up this book that I've been meaning to reread for like, I don't know how long. And like I told you before this, I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel. Well, I haven't, because I'm freaking on Instagram every day and wasting my time. Again, you don't, for those listening, you might not want to be as extreme as me, but maybe you should. Maybe you should a little bit, and like check your priorities, and again, I'm going maybe too many different ways with this, but sometimes it's good to like really take a break and just go back again to the basics. Like, what's important? My kids, my health, and this, and because we're too much into all of this stuff. We're too deep.
No, that's a great point. We spend so much time, and I'm not saying that it doesn't serve a purpose. It serves a purpose, right? But you're right. We'll scroll for 3 hours, and suddenly we're like, what the heck just happened to 3 hours? And what could we have been doing with that time that was more productive? And in addition to that, like you said, we start comparing ourselves, and we're looking at what everybody else is doing and thinking we're not doing that, we're not good enough, and down that path that's not productive in any way. And then we feel terrible. And so it serves a purpose, but we have to also be in control of what we're doing, right? And how much time we're spending on it.
I think the part that you said about control, because that was one thing. I'm like, okay, will I ever come back to Instagram? And you're right, it serves a purpose. But what I want to do, Desiree, is I want to come back to Instagram when I can use it and not let it use me. And if I ever feel like it's the other way around, I'm not going to use it again. Like whether you're starting a business, or, you have a podcast, or you're writing a book. I get it. Again, it serves a purpose. What purpose did it serve for me? Oh my God, you're so pretty. Oh my God, that's all great. Oh, my ego is flattered. But then it doesn't do anything. So if I cannot use it for something creative and productive and maybe make money or something, no. I had to quit, because I have that kind of personality that I would be there for hours. And I know myself now to know that I'm not to be trusted. I'm not to be trusted with that. So until I learn to be trusted, I'm not allowing myself, to be honest.
That's wise. That is wise that you recognize that, and you're prepared now. You're ready to go for when you're gonna launch that YouTube channel and you're gonna get back on Instagram. You know now what you need to do, and I love it. That's that you went through that experience and you learned, and now you know, and you're armed and prepared for when you want to go back.
Yep.
Izabela, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show today. It has been such a pleasure having you speak in such a way. The topics and the things that we've covered really, I don't think was our intended topic, but you know what? It is what it is, and it was meant to be. And I thank you again for your time and for sharing with all of the listeners. Thank you.
My pleasure. And anytime you want to do this again, as you can tell, I can talk forever. Anytime, anything you need, I'm always here for you. Again, I honor you. Everything that you do is so great. And I'm giving you a big hug all the way from San Diego.
Thank you.